Hey train fans, I'm Rocky Canyon Arrow and this is my Rockwall Canyon Railroad. Well, today we're going to start off with a small story and then work into a bigger story. Coming across the Rockwall Canyon Bridge is our newest addition to the fleet, a gas-electric doodle bug. Named it the Yankee Doodle in honor of the Boston and Maine Railroad's Flying Yankee. And if you've ever seen the Flying Yankee, you'll know that it's a streamlined stainless steel train from the 1930s with all kinds of curved edges and fluted sides, and not something I really want to scratch build here. So the Yankee Doodle will have to do for now until I can up my shop capabilities, I guess. All right, well, as the Yankee Doodle and its cab car make its way across the viaduct, we're going to have a quick little look around here at the foliage. It's October 10th, which typically in our area tends to be the peak foliage. It's really nice color in the birch and the maple trees this day. All right, so coming into Pont Rocheau, the Yankee Doodle and its cab car trailer, the Fritz Weatherby, making their way through here. They're not stopping because I have not installed the reed switch to activate the stopping feature. And of course, the naming of the Fritz Weatherby car is after our television historian in New Hampshire, Mr. Fritz Weatherby, on New Hampshire Chronicle. And of course, as the train passes by, you may have noticed in that second to last seat there was a gentleman sitting there, and his name is Mr. Binky Sears. Now, I don't know if you know the name Binky Sears. If you don't, then you probably are not a big enough fan of Fritz Weatherby's New Hampshire Chronicle. So you should tune in one of these days, and Fritz will tell you the story. All right, so as the Yankee Doodle makes its way here through Rockwall Canyon, make note again of the changes that have gone on this side of the railroad. And operationally, I couldn't be happier. This is working very well. All the track is fairly level here. There's a little bit of a grade going into the curve and coming out of it, but overall, it's a vast improvement from what was there before. There is some issue with using a dual relic bender on some of these longer curves, especially when you have heating and cooling cycles. The rails will tend to form a bit of a twist to them, and that can really mess up the ends of the rails. So it's something I'm trying to figure out how to combat here, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so as the Yankee Doodle heads off into the sunset here, I'm going to show a few pictures of the construction process of these two cars. It's just a standard AristoCraft coach. I made a face for the cab. I also opened up and changed the seating around so it's the seats are facing each other. That was kind of a fun little change to do to the car, kind of make it bi-directional. I made special window masks with my vinyl cutter and then taped everything else off and painted it in my paint booth. I used 3M fine line tape to do the striping and vinyl lettering for the lettering. And there it is. All right, now for the main event of this video. A few weeks ago, we had an open house on the railroad, and one of the gentlemen that was here decided to try operating a set of distributed power units, DPUs. And he set a 29-car train and had power midway through, and everything ran very smoothly. So it got the gears thinking here, maybe we could try to do a really big train, like a 100-car train. So I talked to a few of my friends, and we were able to combine our train cars and motive power, and here we have it, a 102-car train. The first section is led by my GP9s. They are powered by G3 era air wire controllers with nickel metal hydride batteries. And the first section contains 26 vintage cars, I guess we'll call them today. They're basically 1960s or older cars, a lot of 40-foot box cars and tank cars. One, I guess, newer cylindrical hopper in there. But for the most part, they're older cars. And so right now the train's currently working uphill onto the Rockwall Canyon Viaduct, heading from Blimpton to Rockwall Canyon. The train is at least 180 feet long. That'd be 100 40-foot cars, but we do have some longer train cars and some engines midway here. So that 880 feet is about a mile in scale, so we have over a mile long train. All right, so the next set of engines here are my New York Central FA1s. These are rather old engines, but they have been upgraded with the newer motor blocks. They've been lowered, and they have air wire on board with nickel metal hydride batteries. So this next section has 22 cars, starting off with some more modern cars, and then a few more of my older cars further down the line here. Well, we really got a lesson on how much heavier and solid the new modern cars are compared to the old cars. They really have some weight to them. And you'll notice the little pair of tank cars there. They were kind of a bellwether of how hard the other engines were pushing. If it got too much pressure, those cars were the first to give out. They just boom, run off the rails. All right, so the next section we have here is a good friend of mine from the Hampshire Garden Railway Society. His J&A Guilford Jeeps leading an F3. And those are, of course, Railpro powered with full sound and all that jazz. And he is pulling a 15-car section, again, with mostly modern cars here. So we got a lot of weight and drag on those cars. And they're kind of also working together with the next section of engines, which are a pair of Dash 9s. And we found those engines to be the peppiest of the bunch here. They really wanted to pull and push, apparently. The lead engine there is actually the Bachmann prototype for the newest release of the Dash 9. You'll notice the current CSX paint scheme, which is very cool to have that on the layout for the special event. And this last section is pulling 39 cars, so that's the longest section of the train, and also being controlled by J&A Railways there, so on the same control system. So it was kind of a ballet to try to keep everyone coordinated. He had one controller for both of his sections, and I had two controllers for my lead sections. And, so we found we really had to be careful how we were communicating and clear about what was going on. I found that, with my sections, I needed to have, enough buff pressure on those FA units on the first section to avoid, stringing out the first section around the curves. But then I didn't have much control over the section behind me, so it was all up to communication and being clear. But the biggest challenge we had were the ends of the railroad. I don't think we had much trouble at all in the midsection of the railroad. It was primarily at the ends where the loops are. And it makes sense because that's where the transition is from uphill to downhill. And it happens to be in a tight turn. So occasionally trains would get strung out. In moving on, we took the train apart and ran some separate smaller trains. And then later on, I came back out and put all of my engines together, all 8 of those locomotives, and tried to haul a 72-car train, I think. Maybe a little less than 72 cars. So this really worked out well. The 100-car train was something that we had to do. That's the goal. You want to have a mile-long train, you got to do it once. But it looks like my layout is maybe a little more tuned to a slightly shorter train. The 70-car train, look at this. It's going all the way around Rockwall Canyon, completely tying it off like a balloon, and not a single issue whatsoever going around the curve. Just an amazing feeling to be there. It felt like you're at Horseshoe Curve in Pennsylvania, just hearing all the noise. It honestly sounded like it was raining in the backyard, like it was rain on a tin roof. And now we make our way into St. Patrick's, doing the reverse loop, making the transition from fairly level, slightly downhill track to hitting a little bit of grade right now, and then working around the corner, getting to our sharpest radius on the main line, right at that point there, which was unfortunately kind of a kink point for us earlier with the 100-car train, but if we keep this train moving, which is important, it'll make it through. I guess knowing that it's, kind of the gatekeeper of how many cars you can pull with engines only in the front. And I don't know if I really see myself, making this a regular habit to have this many cars on a train. Later on I tried doing some operations with the cars, and there was just so many train cars everywhere. It was really hard to use the sidings and to really make any, normal train operations. Really, the hardest part was parking freight cars so that the passenger trains could get through. I still had the Yankee Doodle out there running around, and there was just no place to let it go by. So I was constantly having to stop it and shuffle cars around. So we need more sidings, I guess, before we can add more cars. All right, so coming out of St. Patrick's, we're going to put our 8 engines to the test here and head up the grade all the way to Rockwall Canyon. Like I said, we have about 70 cars here. I can really see how far the cars go off into the distance. They're still coming around the corner. Looks like our caboose has finally reached the straight track here. So I want to thank my friends again from the Hampshire Garden Railway Society for coming to my open house last time around and for helping to inspire this really unique idea for the railroad. Really want to thank my friends who came out, actually brought train cars. When I made my final count, we needed 28 cars. We had far more than that showed up as offered to be part of the 100-car train. I think we had 116 cars available, and we ended up taking 102 for the run. So that was really, really generous of the guys of their time, and really, really fun to have them there to enjoy it with me. So thank you guys. All right, as we tiptoe our way across the little bridges here, you can see our lead engines up on the Bloomington Viaduct there. They're approaching the heaviest grade on the railroad. It's about 2% grade. It's a really broad curve, so the gradient doesn't seem to cause a huge issue, but on a large train like this, definitely is a factor. But even with wet rails from a little bit of rain, the trains made it through just fine. And I think our timing with the foliage was great. We have some leaves coming down, but most of them are still up on the trees, so we didn't have a lot of wet leaves on the rails or leaves getting stuck to the train. You can see right now we're passing through a lot of beech trees, these little kind of scrubs. Whenever you cut down trees in our area, it seems to be the beech trees growing first, maybe some silver birch. All right, so at the end of the day, I split the trains up again and sent 2 of the Jeeps off with a modest train, kind of let the batteries wear down a little bit. And then I also sent the ALCo FAs off on another modest sized train as well, just to kind of wrap up the day and have a little more interest. Have a couple trains running. It's always kind of fun to have trains going in opposite directions. I'm ever amazed at how the battery technology has improved. And, honestly, I'm using fairly old technology. I have these nickel metal hydride batteries in both of these trains. And even with that, previous generation of battery technology, I'm getting plenty of runtime here, especially with these really heavy trains. And they just keep going and going and going. Part of that efficiency comes from the setup that I've chosen. For instance, for these ALCo FAs, I have 1 battery and 1 receiver feeding 3 of the engines, and the lead engine's actually just a dummy being pushed along. So that saves a little bit of extra power. If you don't really need all 4 engines to be pulling, you can save some energy just by having 1 engine freewheeling along there. And you get to save the motor blocks as spares, which is a kind of an added bonus. I was able to do a similar thing with the GP9s too. 2 of the locomotives are set up normally, as in having a battery and receiver and 2 sets of powered motor blocks. The other 2 GP9s had 1 motor block each, and they were being fed off of the other engines. All right, so that pretty much wraps up our freight train extravaganza here. I think we'll be doing some work on our passenger trains in the next few episodes here, but for now we'll let the freight trains rest for a while, let those engines recuperate. You can see we ran those GP9s so hard, the rubber tires actually came right off the rims. Certainly an easy fix, but wow, sure did pull. Alrighty, I hope you enjoyed the episode today. Thank you for watching. My name is Rocky Canyon RR, and that's how we do trains around here.